Let's listen to The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Level B1, Oxford Reading University.
You will find Part 1 in the description and on our channel. Part 2.
One night, I woke up and saw Flora at the window, staring at someone in the garden. I left the room quietly. I wanted to find a spot from where I could see what she saw. The room in one of the towers was the most suitable. I headed there at once. The full moon was shining upon the garden, and I could clearly see Miles there. Fascinated, he stared at the roof of the tower. Surely there was another figure standing above me. I came down into the garden, took Miles's hand, and led him away. He was silent. When we got home together, I asked him, "Why did you go out into the garden, Miles?" He gave me an innocent smile. "To prove to you that I can be bad," he replied. He kissed me, and I held him close to my chest. "You didn't go to bed at all?" I asked. "No, I had been reading until midnight, and then I went out," he replied. "How did you know I was going to notice that?" I asked in surprise. "I have planned it with Flora. She had to wake you up at night," he explained. The children tricked me together. The following day, I told Mrs. Groves what had occurred that night. "My friend, you have changed," she cried. "I have not," I protested. "I have just been trying to understand. There is no doubt that our children see those ghosts all the time. They only pretend to be good, normal children, but in reality, they are prisoners to the ghosts. When they are alone, they talk about them and think about how they can meet them. These violent ghosts want to claim our children's lives," I cried. "But they are dead. What can they do?" Mrs. Groves asked confusedly. "They can destroy the children. It is their intention to only appear in dangerous places, on high ground or close to the lake. They persuade Miles and Flora to follow them, and they want them to die eventually. We must write to their uncle," Mrs. Groves concluded. "He will take them away. You must do it." But I had doubts about it. 8. Soon it was autumn. I no longer saw the ghosts, and the children treated me even kinder and nicer than before. They gladly listened to stories about my life, even though I had repeated them many times. There seemed to be an agreement among us to ignore the issue of Quint and Miss Jessel. The children were silent, and so was I. One cool autumn day, we were on our way to church. Miles and I walked together. Suddenly, he spoke to me. "When am I going back to school?" I wasn't prepared for that question. "You know, I am a boy," he continued. "It's strange that a lady always keeps me company. You are very kind and educate me well, and I don't doubt your intelligence. But I want to know other boys and men. I want to see more of life," Miles said. "Yes, of course you do," I agreed. We walked in silence for a while. "And what does my uncle think?" Miles finally asked. "I don't think he cares about your situation," I admitted honestly. "Then I'll make him come here and care about me," he said in a determined voice. At that moment, I made my decision. I needed to quit and leave at once. I hurried back to the house to pack my things. Deeply confused and worried, I took a seat on the stairs. Then I realized I was sitting on the exact same spot where the terrible ghost woman had sat several weeks ago. I jumped up and raced to the schoolroom. When I entered, I saw the figure of a woman sitting at my desk. Judging by her appearance, she had suffered a lot. I recognized the previous governess. She was writing a letter to her lover with my pen. She looked up at me. "You are a wicked woman," I shouted, and the ghost disappeared. The room was empty. I cannot leave now, I thought to myself. 9. Later that day, I told Mrs. Groves, "I have seen Miss Jessel again and talked to her." Mrs. Groves was confused. "She wants to share her pain with someone," I explained. "She wants to hold Flora." My voice was confident. "I have decided to write to the master. I will tell him about Miles, that the headmaster had rejected him." "But we don't know why they punished him," Mrs. Groves cried out. "We do," I answered. "He was a bad, wicked child." "No," Mrs. Groves was nearly crying. "It was Quint who had spoiled him." "I will tell the master about it," I said. And at that, the conversation was over. The evening was cold and dark. It rained heavily outside. I sat down to work on my letter, but for a long time I couldn't write a word. I left the room, and as I passed Miles's door, I heard his voice. I opened the door and entered his room. For a while, I was silent. Then I said, "We will find another school for you, Miles. You never told me anything about your previous school or your life. What do you want? Do you want to go to your uncle's house?" "He has to come here," Miles replied. "He will take you away from here," I explained. "And you will have to tell many things, the things you can't tell me. Then your uncle will decide what to do." I fell on my knees in front of his bed and kissed him and held him tight. "Oh, Miles, I want to help you so much. Please help me save you." At that moment, a cold wind blew into the room, and Miles let out a loud cry. I noticed that the windows were shut, and the candle had blown out. But Miles told me he had put it out himself. 10. The following day I finished the letter, but didn't have time to send it. Meanwhile, the children had studied very well, and after class, Miles offered to play the piano for me. Miles was a keen piano player. I sat by the fire and listened. The music was impressive, and it nearly put me to sleep. After a while, I felt like I had woken up from a dream. "Where is Flora?" I asked worriedly. "How should I know?" Miles said, laughing. He continued playing. I hurried to my room, but Flora wasn't there. She must be with Mrs. Groves, I thought. But the housekeeper didn't know anything either. Flora has gone outside, I realized. She is with the ghost. We must find them. But Mrs. Groves suddenly stopped. "Where is little Miles?" she asked. "He is in the schoolroom with Quint," I replied carelessly. "What?" Mrs. Groves cried. "And you are leaving him?" "Yes," I said. "They have successfully achieved what they aimed for. They kept my attention away while Flora escaped." Then I drew the folded letter out of my pocket and placed it on the table. "There's no time to lose," I said nervously. We headed directly to the spot by the lake where Flora and I had seen the ghost. Mrs. Groves was frightened to death, but she followed me. We found Flora 10 minutes later. She was standing on the other side of the lake with an odd, peaceful smile on her face. Mrs. Groves took the girl in her arms and held her close to her chest. Suddenly, Flora's face turned serious. "Where is Miles?" she asked. "You tell me first, dear," I asked back. "Where is Miss Jessel?" And then I saw her. "There she is! Look!" I cried, pointing across the lake. Mrs. Groves turned around, but Flora looked hard into my face. The wicked woman in black stood on the other side of the lake, staring at us. Well, it proves that I was right, I thought. But Mrs. Groves said angrily, "What awful things you say! There is no one there." The ghost had won. Mrs. Groves couldn't see them, so she wouldn't believe me. She put her arms around Flora. The girl's face suddenly became so unpleasant, almost ugly. "I don't see anybody," she cried. "I never have. You are bad. I don't love you. Take me away from her." She held on to Mrs. Groves's dress and pointed at me. "I am sorry, Flora," I told her with a heavy heart. "I tried to save you, but I couldn't. I have lost you." I turned to Mrs. Groves. "Go away." I then fell to the ground and cried for a long time. 11. When I returned to the house, I saw neither Mrs. Groves nor Flora. All the girls' things had been taken out of my room. I felt freezing cold. I pulled my chair closer to the fireplace and tried to warm myself. Miles came into the room and sat down next to me. We sat in silence, and I felt that he wanted to become close to me. The next morning, I talked to Mrs. Groves. She said that Flora was ill and didn't want to see me anymore. I told Mrs. Groves that she had to take Flora to her uncle's house. We needed to keep the girl away from the ghosts, and I would stay with Miles. I felt it was necessary to keep the children apart until Flora's departure. Then I remembered that my letter ought to be delivered to the city soon. "No, miss," said Mrs. Groves. "The servant couldn't find your letter." "Miles!" I shouted. "He must have taken it and destroyed it." Soon, Mrs. Groves and Flora went away. I prepared myself to face supernatural power. Till then, I had tried to ignore it. I knew I only needed one more turn of the screw to fix what was against nature. Miles and I had dinner together. He asked me how Flora was feeling, and I told him that she would get better in London. We ate in a hurry. While the servants cleaned up the dishes, we did not speak. Miles stood at the window with his hands in his pockets. When the last servant left, he turned to me. "Now we are alone." "Not really," I said. "There are others." "Yes," he agreed, "but they don't count." He put his face against the window. At that moment, he looked confused. Perhaps he was looking for something behind the glass, but he couldn't find it, and he was disappointed. "Miles, you remember I told you that night in the bedroom that I wanted to help you," I reminded him. "But you wanted something from me too," he replied. "Yes," I confirmed. "I want you to tell me everything." "Now?" He was obviously uncomfortable. "Yes, now." For the first time, I saw fear on Miles's face. He looked around confusedly. Then he took his hat, intending to go outside. Someone waited for him in the garden. "I will tell you later," Miles said. "You will stay with me, and I will tell you everything. I want to tell you." I knew it was cruel to force him to speak, so I just asked him, "Before you go, tell me, did you take my letter?" But I didn't wait for his reply. I suddenly jumped up, put my arms around him, and held him close to me. He was standing with his back to the window. From the outside, Peter Quint was staring at us through the glass. "Yes, I wanted to see what you had written about me." The boy spoke slowly and quietly. He was telling the truth. The ghost turned and left. He was the victim that he had been hunting for. "What did you find there?" I stared into Miles's face now. He was nervous and frightened. "Nothing," he said. "And at school, did you also take others' letters?" I asked. "Did you steal something?" "No," he cried, and from his voice, I knew it was true. "What did you do wrong at school?" I insisted. "I said some things," he answered slowly, as if he didn't quite understand what I asked. "I said unpleasant things to my friends. I thought they had written to you about it in the letter." I almost had the answer. "No, dear," I said. "Tell me, what did you say?" But suddenly, the wicked face of Peter Quint reappeared in the window. He was guilty of all of this. He was trying to stop Miles from telling the truth. But Miles couldn't see him, and I held the boy even tighter to my chest. "No more! No more!" I shouted at the ghost at the top of my voice. "Is Miss Jessel here?" Miles asked, shaking with fear. "No, dear, but that terrible man, that horror is here," I cried. "Peter Quint?" Miles asked, turning his head toward the window. "Where is he?" "What does it matter now, dear?" I said, holding him close to me. "He has lost you forever. You are mine." Miles ran to the window, but saw nothing in it. He let out a terrible scream and was about to fall, but I caught him. Yes, I caught him and held him tight. And then we were alone in the silence of the evening. I looked at the little boy in my arms. He stopped breathing, and then he was dead.
Like and subscribe to support our channel and keep getting new stories. And now check out another awesome audiobook.